In one of the old neighborhoods of Malatya, there stood a house with stone walls worn by years of witness. In its spacious courtyard, pomegranate trees once bloomed, and the garden gate would creak with the constant flow of guests. Now the pomegranates had withered, and the garden gate had rusted. Fahri gently set aside the saz he had been holding. He came to the window, slightly parting the curtain. The rain was hitting the glass like needles. The sky seemed to be crying, just like Fahri's heart. The scent of wet earth outside filled the room. Though this smell once heralded spring for him, now it only reminded him of loss. "My Suna," he murmured toward the window, as if speaking to the darkness beyond the glass. "If I had told you the truth, would you have heard me?" The house was now silent as a tomb. The rooms that were once filled with Suna's laughter now carried only the echo of old memories. In a photograph on the wall, a memento from a wedding day. Fahri and Suna, both smiling, their eyes shining. Back then, Fahri didn't know how fragile love could be. That a whisper, a rumor, a doubt could destroy it. Fahri remembered the moment he first saw Suna 5 years ago. She was in her father's fabric shop in the bazaar. She was caressing the fabrics with her delicate fingers. Although her thick hair was covered, a lock of hair that escaped from under her headscarf shone like gold in the sun. When Fahri entered the shop, time seemed to stand still. He wanted to play his saz for her, which he played for everyone. He wanted to tell her the words he told everyone, but the words got stuck in his throat. Finally, gathering his courage, he asked her father for Suna's hand. Meetings were held between the two families, and they were soon engaged. The early days after their marriage were like a dream. Fahri was a respected musician in the city. He would play at coffee houses and weddings, becoming everyone's favorite. But his real sweetheart was at home. Suna would call him "my Fahri," and he would address her as "my Suna." In the evenings, they would sit in the courtyard. Fahri would play his saz, and Suna would accompany him. Neighbors envied this harmony. "What a beautiful couple," the elderly would say. "May God protect them from the evil eye." But they couldn't be protected from the evil eye. It all began with the mole on Suna's back when she went to the women's bathhouse. Bath day was women's greatest entertainment. Amid the steam between the washing basins, they would both bathe and share their troubles. Neriman, whom Suna thought was a close friend, was a woman who deeply envied Suna. Suna's flawless beauty, her husband who was loved by everyone, and her peaceful home had ignited a fire of jealousy in Neriman. That day at the bathhouse, when Suna lay on the massage stone, Neriman noticed a small mole on her shoulder. This mole would normally remain hidden under clothing, invisible. "Oh, Suna, the mole on your shoulder is so beautiful. I had never noticed it before." Suna just smiled. It wasn't worth discussing. Neriman, with her unbounded jealousy, decided to turn this small detail into a weapon. That night, she said to her husband, Mustafa, "I saw something interesting at the bathhouse today. Suna has a mole on her shoulder, but in a very private place. I wondered who else besides Fahri might have seen it." She left the question hanging in the air. She left the question unanswered. But she skillfully planted a seed of doubt in Mustafa's mind. Days later, Mustafa and Fahri met at the neighborhood coffee house. They were playing backgammon amidst the crowd. Fahri was winning repeatedly. Mustafa's growing anger, as he lost, combined with the jealousy inside him. "Pishti," shouted Fahri, taking the last piece. Mustafa overturned the table. "Instead of winning at backgammon, take care of your wife first." The coffee house suddenly fell silent. Fakhri was frozen. "What did you say?" "Didn't you hear me? I even know the mole on your wife's back." Fakhri's fist landed on Mustafa's face. Those around them intervened, separating them. But that sentence, that poisonous arrow, had already pierced Fakhri's heart. When he came home, he found Suna preparing dinner with an innocent face. "You're home early today," Suna said, with love. Fakhri didn't answer. He sat silently. His eyes watched Suna's every move. Did he really know this woman? The woman who had slept beside him for years, shared his table, told him her secrets? Days passed. Fakhri became more withdrawn each day. Suna asked repeatedly, "What's wrong with you? Why are you acting like this?" But Fakhri could never bring himself to voice what Mustafa had said. He was afraid to ask. Perhaps he didn't want to hear the answer. One night, he returned late from the coffee house. The house was dark. Suna must have been sleeping. A candle was burning in the kitchen, and a letter lay on the table. "My dear Fakhri, for days I've seen the change in your eyes. You don't look at me like you used to. You don't tell me what's wrong, but I understand. I've lived with you for years. I know every change in your eyes. Rumors have reached my ears. I guess you've heard them too. That cursed bath day and the mole on my back. My Fakhri, I never betrayed you. I never loved anyone else in my life. But now I see that you don't believe me anymore. Every day you drift a little further away. Even if I killed myself, it wouldn't be enough to erase the doubt in your eyes. And maybe that's the only solution. I know you will remember me for years. As you read this letter, perhaps I will call out to you, tell you the truth. But it will be too late then. My Fakhri, whom I loved until my last breath, please forgive me. Your Suna." Fakhri rushed to the room in panic. When he opened the door, he saw the biggest nightmare of his life. Suna was hanging from the ceiling with a rope. Her face was white, her eyes were open. "My Suna!" cried Fakhri, trying to free her body from the noose. But it was already too late. The room was ice cold. In Suna's eyes, there seemed to be a frozen question. "Why didn't you believe me?" He lowered Suna, laid her on the bed. He stroked her hair, held her hands. "Wake up, my Suna," he whispered. "Please wake up." But Suna did not wake up. As dawn broke, Fakhri was still by her bedside. The pale light entering through the window bathed the room in a sorrowful brightness. Outside, birds had begun to sing. Fakhri took his saz. The notes that fell from his fingers were sad, full of pain. Words dripped drop by drop through tears. Dawn has broken again, my Suna doesn't wake. A heart that yearns with longing cannot bear this ache. I call out to my Suna, my voice she cannot hear. Wake up, my Suna, wake from your deep slumber. After losing Suna, Fakhri left Malatya. He never returned to those lands again. But his folk song remained, as the story of a legendary love, a misunderstanding, a lack of trust. Years later, a journalist found Fakhri. He was now an old, tired man. The song was still being sung everywhere. The journalist asked, "Why did you write this song?" Fakhri looked into the distance. His eyes were moist. his voice trembling. If you have someone you love, trust them. Believe in their eyes, not in gossip. I didn't believe, and I made the biggest mistake of my life. I can never bring Suna back, but perhaps others will learn from my mistake. Fadi fell silent. Suna's memory still lived within him, and his song would remain as a cautionary tale for generations. Note for international audiences. This story is inspired by the tragic tale behind Uyan Sunam Uyan, Wake Up My Suna Wake Up, a famous Turkish folk song from the Anatolian region. The song is based on actual events that took place in Malatya, Turkey, during the early to mid-20th century. Uyan Sunam Uyan is one of Turkey's most emotionally powerful folk songs, telling the heartbreaking story of how gossip, jealousy, and mistrust destroyed a loving marriage. The song has been passed down through generations and is still performed today as a reminder of the devastating consequences of unfounded jealousy and the failure to communicate. This narrative adaptation preserves the essence of this authentic Turkish folk story while bringing its universal themes of love, trust, jealousy, and regret to an international audience.